This is the Dallas Morning News.
This episode is from an independent podcast hosted by the Dallas Morning News Opinion Team.
Cynt Marshall will talk about passion, enthusiasm. You saw it all, but also a great story in terms of an individual that came out of a tough background, faced obstacles, not just growing up, but all through her life, but really has come out with an outlook, an optimism, a positive nature that's really made a difference in two large organizations, AT&T and the Dallas Mavericks.
She's seen a lot. She's been around the called people side of the business for over 3 decades, and then she got tapped to go be CEO of the Dallas Mavericks, which was a shift of gears for her, but she embraced it, and she did it with the joy that she speaks about so heavily.
And she told a couple stories that I'm not sure anybody has ever heard on how she joined the Mavericks and kind of built a very different culture, and a couple of impressions of the most latest things that have happened with Mavericks.
Yeah, she may be breaking a little news on the Luka Doncic moment and her just finding out. She was gone at the time, so not involved, but exciting nonetheless. She gives us a wealth of experience from personal to professional. Worth the listen. Welcome to Intersections, where we take a multi-generational look at the critical issues facing America. Tom, a lot of energy today.
This will be a fun one. Cynt Marshall.
Yes.
Former senior executive at AT&T.
Yes.
CEO of the Mavericks.
Yes.
So a pretty interesting perspective there. But I'm actually more interested in the story of where you came from, what you overcame to get to those two positions, and then what you left behind.
Oh, I love
But
that.
to start off, first of all, Cynthia.
Yes.
Cynt.
You're trying to get in trouble. Yes.
Cynt the Sprint.
Yes.
Where did that come from?
Okay, because I ran track as a kid. And so I was a member of the Richmond Half Steppers. And so it was a team of
In the Bay Area.
probably in the San Francisco Bay Area, Richmond, California. So a lot of people think Richmond, Virginia. No, Richmond, California, right there in the East Bay. And there were probably 20 of us on our little track team, me and 3 of my sisters and, some other folks. And we had this great coach who taught us a lot. I mean, we'll talk about that later, but I learned a lot actually running track and the discipline and teamwork and all that. And so it was just something that we showed an interest in. My mom and dad said, go ahead and do it. And we ended up being great little track stars.
And Cynt
Amazing.
stuck
And
with
so
you all these
I
years.
was sent the Sprint, and it just stuck with me all this time.
Okay, so many years, a lot of people, different organization.
Yes.
What stands out? Give us 1 to 2 moments and lessons learned. What stands out over all your experience?
All of my experience in
Just the professional world.
in my professional world?
Yeah, AT&T, the Mavericks, et cetera. What stands out to you?
That it's all about people, that everything is about people. And I am very results oriented, and I'm driven by results, but I also know that people produce results. And so to really get good results, to do what you need to do, to deliver to your share owners, to your employees, it truly is about the people doing the work. And so I've learned that over my career, and not even the hard way. It's just something I learned very early on as a young leader supervising a bunch of long-distance operators. So that shows you how far back this goes. You don't even know about long-distance operators.
I'm too young for that.
But you don't.
Exactly.
Are there 1 to 2 principles that you learned early on in your career that you know have just reigned true over the past decades? Is there anything you learned from a mentor or anything you just saw that you were like, hey, I'm adopting this. This is going to become mine because I want to put that with my people?
Yes. Okay. A few things. So I have a leadership philosophy that's called the 3 L's. And in order for me to be an extremely effective leader, there are 3 things that I need to do, and I need to do extremely well. Listen to the people, learn from the people, and love the people. Listen to them at a level where you can hear what they're not even saying, which I did a lot, and we'll talk about, I'm sure, my job at the Mavericks, because that's kind of what I came in with. And then learn the job. I mean, I actually went to pole climbing school again. You don't know about this, okay? But back when we had all these poles out there, and I was with AT&T, right? And so I had a big operations organization, and I went to pole climbing school so that I could learn the job in order to serve the people, in order to make sure they have the resources they needed and all that. I didn't want it to be so foreign to me that I couldn't serve them. I didn't want it to take that long. And the union loved it. They showed up my last day of pole climbing school, threw me a party, took all these
Pretty powerful
pictures.
union, too.
They could not believe that as a quote unquote district level manager, I actually took the time to go to pole climbing school. And they knew why I was doing it. So I developed great relationships with the union. And that's what I learned. It's about everybody. It's about everybody in the ecosystem and having relationships with the employees, the people in the ecosystem, the customers, everybody. I mean, it's about the people. So listen to the people, learn from the people, and love the people. And the listen part, I learned that in my first job at 21 years old when I was supervising these operators. And, it was very disciplined. And honestly, they had to turn on a light. They had to wait for me to turn off a light before they could go to the restroom. I mean, that's how disciplined it was because you want to make sure you had enough people on the phones and all that, right? And so they came to me and I had these very seasoned operators who worked 6 hours and they got paid for 8. And so I worked kind of the night shift because I didn't want to get up that early in the morning, right? I'm a night person, right? So we just developed a great relationship. So one day they came and they said, kill the light. We don't want to go by that anymore. You need to trust us. We know how many people need to be on the phones, and we're all looking out for each other. We're looking out for you. And so we just think that is offensive. Turn the light out. Well, I was trained. Okay, this is my first job. I'm like, that light is everything. And so they finally convinced me. I said, okay, let me talk to my boss tomorrow. So I went to my boss and I said, okay, we want to turn the light out because they don't like it anymore. They know what needs to happen. And she says, you cannot do that. So I wouldn't let it rest. So finally, a few days passed. She said, okay, you can try it. She says, these results are going to be so bad. I said, we're going to try it. So I came back and I talked to them. I said, okay, I've been listening to you guys. I know what you want. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to turn that light out. And I showed them the whole 8 hours. Here's what we've got to cover. We ended up doing that, and we ended up with the best results in the country. I mean, it was crazy because I listened to them. They knew what they wanted. I trusted them.
You also empowered them.
I empowered them. They knew what we had to deliver because I showed them. And so sometimes they look at me and they said, how many of us do we need? I said, we need 21 of you guys the next 15 minutes. So they'd appoint a leader and then they would count. And that was the start of something very different. And we killed the light and never came back.
They had ownership. And that's the whole deal about teams.
They owned it. And I was 21 years old. And so they trusted me. So when my boss left, they actually wanted me to replace her. And they meaning the leadership as well. But I did not do that. I kind of took a ladder. I turned down a promotion, which I did 4 times in my career because I wanted to go and learn other parts of the business and the technical part of the business. And so I went over to network engineering. But that experience I will never forget because it showed me the value of listening. And so now that's what I try to do.
And you wrote a book, Chosen.
Uh-huh.
We'll probably come back to it several different times. But one of the things you talk about is the idea of joy in that. And people, I think, often think about happiness. I want to be happy. But you make a big distinction between joy and between happiness.
Yes.
Talk to us.
It's deep. Now, some things can make you happy. I mean, you might be happy with your salary or happy with the new car you get or happy with, a bag of Doritos, whatever, because you want them a snack
which
at
may
night.
be flirting.
And right, exactly. But it can go away. It can totally flee. I mean, it can go away just like that. The joy I'm talking about, we used to sing a song when I was growing up in church that says, this joy I have, the world didn't give it to me, and the world can't take it away. It's a joy that comes from above. It's a joy that is in my soul. It's a joy that makes me jump out of bed in the morning. It's a joy that, people sometimes say, what keeps you up at night? Nothing. Ask me what wakes me up in the morning, okay? Because honestly, I go to bed really late. I'm a night owl because I am just trying to enjoy like every bit of it. I mean, life is just so good. And so there is this joy, and I choose to have it because it was given to me. So I choose to keep it. And even when bad things are going on in my life, like when I got diagnosed with cancer and my husband had brain damage, and when I had my daughter's casket in my lap, I could still smile because there was just this unspeakable joy. Even going through pain, going through sadness, I could rely on the joy that was in my soul and in my spirit. And it's been there since I was 17 years old, and I'm not giving it up.
So education is important. You received a full ride scholarship to the University of California, Berkeley.
Go Bears!
A very good school.
Yes.
But that really started a series of lessons. Clearly, you were the first African-American cheerleader at the University of California, Berkeley.
Yes.
But yet there was a lot of pushback against you because of that. You then enter a corporate environment, woman, senior executive, African-American pushback. Talk about those times, because I know at the University of California, Berkeley, it must have been the excitement of being selected as a cheerleader, that sort of thing. And then all of a sudden, the comments and the ridicule that you received.
You know, it's interesting because I ended up being, and I always say one of the first because the school goes back to 1800, so I can't believe I'm the first, but I guess I am. But it also happened at the same time I joined my sorority. And of course, I was the first African-American in my sorority.
And you were Delta Gamma.
I'm a DG, anchors away. Yes. And so you did your homework. I love that. I love that, Kyle. So all of this is happening at once. So we have, I'll tell you one situation. When I was a cheerleader, I had this guy come up to me, very seasoned alum, and he is touching my hair because I had this big, afro. It's 1979, right? And so he's touching my afro, and he's like, "What is this? What is this?" And I'm like, "What do you think it is?" It's my hair. And so, but I didn't go crazy with it. I'm 19 years old, and so I'm just kind of like dealing with it. And so then, he goes off and, it's a lot of chatter and all that. But honestly, there was more positive stuff than negative stuff. And I don't know if that's just my personality where I look for the positive and I ignore the negative. But then I would have people come up to me and saying, "It's about time." People who don't look like me would say, "We're so proud of you. And we're so happy that you're here now," because I was changing the music. Michael Jackson had come out with his Off the Wall album that year. I'm like, oh, and I was hair cheater. And I'm like, oh, Cal Band, you're going to be playing something different right now. And so it was all different, right? But I would just kind of get through those moments and just kind of take a deep breath because I knew it was different for people to have me out there. And even when I was in my sorority, and so I remember one of my sorority sisters, she played a little prank on her parents and some of the parents during our night of presents. So that's the night, you're introducing all the new pledges. And so she goes, Cynt, we want you to open the door. Now, I actually didn't know what they were doing. Okay, so they set me up and they said, Cynt, we want you to open the door. And I said, what? I said, no, I got to get dressed with everybody else because I got my little gown and stuff that, people got me. And so they're like, no. We're doing something. We just want you to open the door and we're going to have your dress ready and all that. And so you can get dressed pretty quickly, but we want you to open the door for the parents. I'm like, whatever. So I opened the door and people start giving me their coats and all that stuff. The bottom line is, so they thought I was the help. And my sorority sisters are up at the top of the stairs and they are rolling. And so finally I go up and I'm like, what's going on here? And they say, see, we need you to understand kind of what is happening here. Everybody is not happy or think that like you're one of us. Like they think you're like the maid. And we had a cook named Rose. They think you're like her helper. I said, everybody doesn't think that. And they said, oh yes, that's what they thought. Now watch what happens. And so I'll never forget, I'm not going to mention her name, my buddy who did this. She says, no, it's a lesson for you, but it's a lesson for our parents because we need them to learn something. Now, this was back in 1979, 80, okay? And so I get all dressed up. I come in with the class that's being presented, and I'm the only African-American. And then these parents see me, and they're like, oh, my goodness. And their daughters are looking at him like, called you out on your bias. Now, I never would have done that prank. I never would have participated in it if I knew what they were doing. But they wanted to teach their parents a lesson, and they wanted to teach me a lesson too. And it turned out being great because we all ended up just being such good friends. And I loved the parents. They were, like aunts and uncles to me. Their daughters wanted to send a powerful message that we have said yes to this girl, and she is one of our sisters, and don't ever look at a Black girl like that again thinking she's the help. She's one of us. It was a powerful lesson.
Two-way lesson.
So
Powerful lesson.
we're a few minutes in, and the word that keeps coming back to me as I listen to you is talking about grace.
Yes.
There's a lot of grace in the story you just shared.
Yes.
A lot of grace on your end. As you moved into AT&T,
Mm-hmm.
you got to exhibit grace throughout your horizon there.
You could have. My middle name could have been Grace.
Could have been. Before we get to the Mavericks, let's talk about and put a bow on AT&T and some of the times, the incidents, the hardship. Walk us through what were the big moments? What were the friction points? But also, what were the big learnings?
There were some friction points. I had a wonderful 36-year career at AT&T, and obviously, I was the first many times. That's just how it is.
Rose to be Senior Vice President of Human Resources?
Yes. So and prior to that, I was elected to be an officer of the business. And I'll never forget, getting that second called.
And that was when you went from Richmond to the Carolinas, and you were the only officer in the Carolinas, right?
Yes, which was awesome. Which was awesome. We got to do a lot of stuff. But I actually got promoted as an officer while I was still in San Francisco. And I remember getting that call, and it first came with all these caveats that I talked about later. And I actually turned it down because I'm like, you can't fundamentally change who I am. My faith is important to me. But then I get a call back from the big guy. Oh, my goodness. It's such a great story. I don't have time to tell it, about the power of the words of a leader. And he basically said, I heard what happened. Let me start all over again. The person we just elected to be an officer of the corporation is Cynt. And I know you. And he actually said, I've been in your office. I know you have a sign in your office that said, Lord, there's nothing that can happen today that you and I can't handle. He said, I've seen that big rock on your desk that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I know the results there. And he just basically started telling me about the results. It was so empowering. He says, and you don't have to change anything, and you don't have to change your name and be Cynthia. You can be Cynt. And he just went through all of that, which was great. He actually gave me the permission to be me. And so when I showed up to my first officers conference, he was standing there waiting for me with one of his lieutenants. And he says, Cynt, this is a long way from the Easter Hill housing projects in Richmond, California. He said, you're one of 110. We're talking about a company of 200,000 people. He said, you're one of 110, the top people in this corporation. He said, you earned it. Go in there. I want you to make noise. I want to hear your voice, which, I was kind of quiet because I'm like, this is crazy. And the room just looked very different. He said, but you earned the right to be here. He was in tears. I was in tears. The whole thing was just beautiful. And I had to kind of rely on that moment. Several times after that, when something would happen, I would say, no, I earned the right to be here. And he wants me to be Cynt and not someone else. And then I thought about years prior to that, when I was an engineer in the company. It was interesting because I was an engineering major in college, took a business class, changed it, and said, no, I don't want to be an engineer. I'm going to go like the business administration classes and all that. And then I started working for the company, and my second job as an engineer. So I guess it was just in my bones. And I remember two things that happened in that job. I remember having a boss whose boss, we were all in a big meeting, and his boss looked at me. I'm the only woman in the room. And he said, and he called me Cindy. He refused to call me Cynt. He said, Cindy, can you make our coffee? And I said, sure. I know how to make coffee. So I made the coffee. Okay, I didn't think about it. I'm 23 years old. I made coffee. And it was one of those 3-day meetings, okay? So big planning session. So the next day we're in the room, and I looked at him. And just say his name was Mr. Brown, which his name wasn't Mr. Brown, right? But I said, Mr. Brown, can you make coffee? You gonna make us some coffee? And he looked at me, and he smiled, and he said, yes, Cindy, I can make the coffee. He said, you made it yesterday? I'll make it today. I said, we'll get somebody else to make it tomorrow. And he and I used to laugh about that because I could have totally gone nuts on him the day before. And actually, it didn't even come to me to go nuts on him. That's just kind of not who I am. And I'm not naive. I know stuff happens. But I thought, I know how to do this, so I can do it. And he did it the next day.
Instead of reacting, you thought.
And it was great. But then I also had the situation in that same job where I'm going to the restroom one day and I'm getting ready to interview these people to bid on a big job that I had. Okay, big job. millions of dollars. And the guy's sitting there for the next interview, and I'm getting ready to go to the restroom, and I said, hi. I said, can I help you? And so he says, no, nasty. No, if I need your help, I'll ask you. I don't need some assistant trying to talk to me. And he was nasty. And I said, well, I was just trying to see if you were here for an interview. He said, you don't need to talk to me. They'll come get me when it's time. I said, okay. I kept going to the bathroom. I came back. I said, you sure I can help you? He said, no. You go and do your little job. And he said, little job. You go and do your little job. And when CG Marshall is ready, they'll come and get me. I just got married. I'm thinking, okay. So I went in.
I would have loved to see the look on his face.
And then what my assistant said, okay, she says, I'm going to go out. Her name was Carmen. She says, I'm going to go out and get him. I said, no. I want to go out and get him. I said, I'm going out to get him. So I come out and I said, oh, it's time for our meeting. And he looked, he said, you again? I said, yes, Cynthia G. Marshall.
Describe the look on his face.
He
You got to.
almost fainted. He's like, I had no idea. I said, pays to be nice to people. I said, now this is going to be a very quick meeting. I said, but you come on in. You come on in. And so he came in, we did what we needed to do. And I said, now, you should have been a little nicer to me. He said, I had no idea who you are. I said, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. If I was the janitor, you should be nice. I said, now I have a feeling that we're not going to be calling you back. I said, but we're going to, have a fair process. I said, now I hope you learned something from this. And obviously he didn't get the bid. Okay, thank goodness. But he learned something. There's a book called The Power of Nice. And I give it to all the people who come to work for me, because it talks about how to conquer the business world with kindness. Just be nice. Now, he did what he did, I believe, of course, because he had biases. He didn't expect to come and sit with an engineer on this big job with somebody who looked like me. He didn't expect that. And he let his biases get in the way. Mm-hmm. And he lost a pretty big job because of that. Yeah. And so I went from somebody asking me to make coffee to somebody who thinks I'm the assistant to, it just happens. And so somebody told me one time, it's not always what happens, it's how you respond to what happens.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So I have to think about how I respond to what happens, because biases are real and we all have them. We all have them.
36 years. Successful career at AT&T.
Yes.
Then start a consulting business. But all of a sudden, one day, you get a call from a guy by the name of Mark Cuban.
Don't judge me. I don't know if you heard this. So how do you
respond to that call, and what was that call like?
Okay, so I don't know if y'all know this. Okay, I didn't know him when he called me, okay? And somebody actually wrote an article saying they didn't believe that. I'm like, well, I don't really care what they believe, okay? I can't care about that.
Still didn't know him.
I didn't know him, and I didn't know the guy who thought I didn't know him, okay? And so I'm on a call with my client. So I'm handling my consulting business, and we know what it was. Something told me not to travel that week. And so I didn't travel that week. And we were also looking at moving back to North Carolina, not to California, but to North Carolina.
No way.
And so I had come home from a meeting the week before with my client. I told my husband, he goes, before you say anything, I want to tell you, if you are trying to move back to North Carolina because you think I want to do that, he says, that's not true. I like it here in Dallas. This is my husband. And what I was getting ready to tell him is I had been praying on the plane, and the Lord said, call off the move. So he told me before I could tell him. And I just smiled. I said, well, good. But I was getting ready to tell you. I just felt like we should call off the move. So a week later.
What year was this?
This was 2018. So a week later, I'm on the phone with my client, and we're doing our thing and all that. So, I'm on my other business phone, and my personal cell phone is going off. I have 4 kids. 2 of them in college. I'm thinking it's one of my kids blowing up my phone, asking for money. Okay, because that's just what we do. I'm moving fast. They're moving fast. I'm like, okay, you need $225. Just put 225. We'll square it later. I'll, transfer it to you. I can do everything from my phone, right?
That's the definition of optimism. She wasn't worried there's a problem.
Exactly.
She just expected a request for money.
Right, whatever. Right. So I said, so it's boop, 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 right? And it's just going off. And so I didn't even look at the phone. I gave my husband the phone. I said, one of the kids need money. Handle it. and so the people who I'm on the call with, they said, Sid, do you need to hang up? I said, no, we're good. I said, I think one of the kids need money. So we kept going. Then my husband comes back and he goes, you need to hang up that call. So I tell them, I said, hold on a minute. And I said, what? He says, this dude doesn't need any money. Mark Cuban's trying to reach you. And I said, see, I'm so embarrassed to say it now because I should have known him. I said, who is that? And he says, oh my gosh. And see, and that's the big joke in my house, that I don't know popular culture, that I just don't know some of the stuff and people that I should know. And it's almost embarrassing because my husband always says, if you ask her about a gospel artist or you ask her about a scripture, you ask her about this, she'll know that. But there's just some stuff I don't know, right? And I said, who is that? And so he started telling me, and I said, okay. He goes, something's going on in Dallas. Like, you need to see something's going on. And so it sounds like he needs to talk to you. And so I said, and see, I didn't know what was going on because I had watched the national news that morning. And I was so emotionally caught up into these teenagers who were protesting in Parkland, Florida for gun violence because of the shooting at their school. And then the Reverend Dr. Billy Graham had passed away, who was very instrumental in our lives. It's February 21st, 2018. And so I was watching those two things that morning, and I got very emotional, and I love to write. And so I wrote a blog, and so I have this thing, My 2 Cents, right? So I wrote a My 2 Cents about impact, and I had the last 3 letters in caps, ACT. Like, what's my next act? And I found myself age-wise smack dab in the middle of these teenagers and this 99-year-old. And I said, okay, Lord, what's my next act? I mean, I liked my consulting stuff. I knew the impact that I had on people at AT&T. I knew the impact I had in the community. When I was when I had moved from North Carolina and came to Dallas, people were talking to me about being the president of a college. I'm like, is that my next act? 4 colleges had calls, so all this was going on at the same time. And so I wrote this blog about just what impact, was I going to have in life and the importance of having impact and doing what the Lord has called you to do. So I will go through this whole thing. So I'm so caught up on the national news. It's one of the few times I didn't watch the local news that day. So I don't know what's going on, right? And so my husband said, something's going on. I'm like, okay. So I ended up talking to Mark, and I told him he wanted to talk to me and just asked me if I could come and see him at 2 o'clock. And I said, no, because I have a mammogram scheduled at 2 o'clock. I can't. And I said, I'm a colon cancer survivor, and I know what happens when you don't take care of your medical business. I learned it the hard way, like the hardest of ways. And so I have to go to the mammogram. He was like, okay, well, you do what you got to do, okay? And just let me know when we can get together. I mean, I'll come to you, whatever. So I ended up going to mammogram. I came back. My husband's all decked out in Mavs colors, okay, because he's like, we're going to see Mark Cuban, okay? And so I finally go and see him, and we had a 55-minute conversation, and it was wonderful. I love this man. I mean, from day one, because he was so transparent and so candid and so genuinely wanting to change the culture of his workplace.
How did he describe the problem that he was facing?
He basically kind of quoted to me, okay, so keep in mind, on my way over there, I told my husband, okay, we need to call a driver because somebody needs to take us over there. And it was storming, raining. And I said, because I need to read this article, because he had told me about it. And I said to my husband, and you need to read it. And then we need to compare notes.
Which was an article
Sports
about
Illustrated
the NBA
article.
talking about the problems and the culture within the Mavericks organization.
Yes, that had come from a Sports Illustrated article that had just been released. And so I told my husband, you need to read it. I need to read it. I got to figure out what's going on. Because, if you know me, I'm about preparation. Like, I got to prepare before I go in. And, I can do stuff on the fly too, but I like to prepare. So by the time we get to the building, I look at my husband and I said, I'm not going to do this. I said, I'm not going to do this. I said, I have a brand that I have worked 37 years on, and it's a good brand. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes like everybody else, but it's a good brand. And I don't know if I want to be associated with this because I actually don't know what's really going on here. Okay, I read the article. It's not on the basketball side. It's some stuff on the business side, and it was more than stuff. It was bad stuff. And I said, I just don't know I don't even know, like, why I got this telephone call. And so my husband's like, no, but it's Mark Cuban. So we're going in there to talk to him. We are going in there to talk to him. So I'm like, okay. He goes, no, we're going in there to talk to him. So I go in there. We talk 55 minutes. He tells me what's going on. He's telling me about this article. He's telling me what he's telling the press and all that. And I'm just, and it's, Mark, he's so honest. He's so transparent. He's so out there with it. I'm like, okay, but some of this stuff he needs to chill because this is still just playing out, right? And so
Was the article a surprise to him? Or was the situation within the Mavs organization a surprise to him?
Yes. Yes to the latter. I wasn't around, so, I mean, usually, as you know, people will call and fact check things with you. So I don't know if any of that
happened
occurred.
Yeah.
But clearly what was going on in the organization, okay, what all was in that article, okay, was a surprise to him. And so he was genuinely, I mean, I know people doubt it. Some people say, oh, he knew. He genuinely, when he talked to me, was disturbed and was absolutely wanting something different for his employees. And that's what kept coming out to me. And then he talked to me about, he said, no, you've done some work at AT&T. And I know kind of they ended up on a great place to work list. I mean, so whoever he talked to, okay, they had given him the information. And so I said, let me go home and pray about it. He said, I want you to be my CEO. I want you to be my CEO. I want you to come and run this. If we need to set up a board, you do whatever you need to do. You have carte blanche. I want something better. That's for his team. And that was the mandate from the time I met him, was to transform the culture.
And that offer was made in that first meeting?
In that first meeting. He offered me the job as a CEO, right? And so I said, let me go home and pray about it. I need to go home and pray about it. Because he had done his homework. It's not like he just met Cynt and said, I like her. He had done his homework before he calls me, okay? And so, in fact, one person said, I don't know if she's getting ready to move back to North Carolina or California, because I hear maybe she's getting ready to move. He didn't know that the Lord had called out the move the week before, okay? And I told him that, and he just looked. I said, so let me go home and pray about it. And he goes, okay, so what does that look like? And that was like the best part of the conversation for me. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you're going to go home and pray about it. I said, I said, let me describe to you my prayer closet. I said, when I was growing up, I didn't have a closet. I just had a little bench. But now I actually have a closet because I got this big house. And so we laughed. And so then I was literally describing to you my prayer closet. I said, I'm going to write your name and the Mavericks on a yellow sticky, because that's what I keep. And I post it all up. So I'm telling him all. He goes, oh, yeah, do that. We need all of that. So I said, then I'll call you tomorrow and let you know next steps. I'm going to go home and pray about it. He said, okay, well, I really want you, just based on what I've heard and then our interaction and the questions, because I asked him some pretty tough questions. He said, because he was telling me some things, I was like, I don't think I would have done that. And so we just had good dialogue. And as I was leaving his office, 2 women stopped me and said, can we talk to you? And Mark said, and I looked at him and he said, please talk to them. Please talk to them. Now, it wasn't a setup. He didn't know they were going to do that because they came right to me. They didn't come to him, okay? And I said, sure, if that's okay. And so we went back into his office. He wasn't there. So we went back to his office, and they just started telling me some things that were going on and some things they had been through, and they described the culture, and they were just very broken. Everybody in there was just a solemn spirit in there. And then they used this word. They said, just based on what Mark told us about you this morning, because apparently it had a meeting with all the employees and said, I called this person and blah, 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 and told them a little bit about me. And so I'm going to meet with her this afternoon, and hopefully she'll be interested in coming in to be a leader.
So before he ever met with you, he met with this staff.
Yes.
And told them what he was thinking and who he was going to offer the job to.
Yes. Isn't that incredible? Because I think part of what
I'm not sure I've ever heard that happen before.
Well, see, and I think, and I love that because, which I did something similar afterwards. I ended up meeting with the employees before I went and addressed the media for the first time, which is interesting because that's just a good philosophy. Yeah. Your people they should be in the know. And especially in a situation like that, you need to tell your people that you are taking this seriously and that I'm trying to get us some help and all that. So he did. But that's Mark. He is transparent. And so they said, based on everything that Mark told us this morning, we think you could really come in here and have a great impact on us. And I stopped and they said, yeah, we think you could really impact us. And they used the word impact 4 times. And I had just written a blog and posted it that morning. And that's when I just got goosebumps. Mm-hmm. And so I really need to get home and get in his prayer
so you come in, you accept the job, you come in the organization.
I came in to accept the job, but I was there 3 hours before Mark knew I was in the building because employees grabbed me coming in the door and took me in a conference room and just started talking to me.
That sets up where I want to go. Yeah. The first 100 days, you have to come in, diagnose the situation, understand the culture, and put together a plan. That plan you put together was built around something called crafts.
Yes.
So walk us through, starting at the point that you just were, how you come in, how you independently, aside from Mark and the employees, how you understand and look at the situation, diagnose it, understand that culture, and then put together the plan.
Yes. Okay. So from those 3 hours where the employees had me in a conference room before I even accepted the job with Mark, I ended up, when Mark told me we were going to have a press conference, I ended up taking those notes from just the things they told me. Because I was, they were telling me things, and I'm saying, okay, how is that set up? Do you have this? Do you have that? I mean,
So you're listening.
I'm listening. Yeah. I'm listening.
Asking questions.
I'm taking a lot of notes. I mean, a lot of notes, right? Ask a few questions, but they just wanted to talk. So I'm taking a lot of notes. And so then I'm thinking, so I read the article again, okay? I read my notes from what Mark had said. And I said, okay, I got to take a shot at laying out some kind of plan. Because it's an acute situation. We don't have time to just, talk to a lot of people. I got to come in with a plan, and then we'll adjust it and do what we need to do. And so I took all of that, and then I thought about all the work we had done at AT&T that got us on Fortune's 100 Great Places to Work list, and it was from listening to our employees. And I thought about what are the basic things that are needed, in my opinion, to run a successful organization, to have people feel good about where they work, and to have people think, okay, I'm in good hands, I'm with effective leaders, I have what I need to serve my customers, all that. I mean, the whole recipe. And I literally had to just think about, what do I think is needed based on the data, based on what I have right now in front of me. I don't work here, okay, and I can't really talk to anybody else. I got to come in with a plan and have a press conference. And so I ended up coming up with a vision. I said, okay, we need a vision. People need to know where we're trying to go. We need a set of values, which I think is so important. We need a plan that people can rally around. And then we need a diverse group of people around the table that come from all walks of life. They have different perspectives, and they represent us, our employees, our customers, our vendors, all that.
When you walked in, no vision, no values, and no diversity. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm. Fair. And so I said, okay. And then I'm going to take all that, and then I will have a one-on-one with every single employee in the organization, get to know them, get to know their thoughts, see what else we need to add. Okay. So I walk in, and so I told Mark, okay, here's a vision, values, all that. So we're getting ready to go have a press conference because, of course, as you know, situation is hot, right? And I said, no, I need to talk to employees. First of all, I need to tell them about who I am. They need to know who I am. They need to know Cynt, okay? And then I need to tell them what our vision is, our values, what we stand on, and describe to them at a high level this 100-day plan. I said the media is not going to hear anything from me on this topic.
Put this together in how long?
Literally on an airplane.
You digested all of it in that meeting.
Yes.
Then came back to both Mark and the employees with this
here's the vision,
values, et cetera.
Yes. The vision is that we would set the global standard for diversity and inclusion in the NBA. And it was about diversity and inclusion literally in the broadest terms. Mm-hmm. We are not representative, in my opinion, of the fan base, just who we need to be, right? And then, no women at the table in permanent leadership positions. Okay, so we got some work to do. And so I lay out this vision. I said our set of values will be something that will not just hang on the walls, but they will operate in the halls. And they spell crafts. Character, integrity will be at the center of everything we do. Respect, authenticity, like you get to do you, fairness, teamwork, and safety, both physical and emotional safety. Mm-hmm. We are not going to be perfect. We're going to make mistakes, but we are going to operate and stand. This is our foundation. Employees, bought in. I'm telling you, I inherited a wonderful set of employees. I love them so much because you can imagine these employees who are working hard every day to serve the fans, serve the players. And now you got this crisis on your hand and your relatives are calling you like, what's going on in there? And then just think about what they were working in, right? So just wonderful people, but we had some problems. And so I laid this out, and then I told them that I was going to meet with every single one of them, one-on-one, where they wanted to meet with me or not, that I wanted to talk to them. I told them we will have external advisors to help us because sometimes we can't see what we need to see.
Mm-hmm.
So we put together the Dallas Mavericks Advisory Council, and it's a group of about 30 external leaders. Police Chief David Brown, he was our first co-chair. Yep. So we'd have an external co-chair and an internal co-chair. And we cycle through it like every 2 years, we'd have a new group. And they've been extremely instrumental in helping us see what we need to see. We run our marketing plans by just every aspect of our business. We'll put it in front of them every quarter. So I laid this out and said, okay, are you bought in? And they're like, yes. And I said, okay, now I can go and talk to the media. And anybody who wants to go with us to this press conference can come to the press conference. Now, I didn't even know exactly where the press conference was, how big the room was. But I'm like, this is their workplace. I'm their leader. They get to come too. And a lot of them volunteered. And some of them said, no, we're going to stay and watch in the conference room. But a lot of them volunteered to come to the press conference. So here I come. Mark's with me. We got our communications person and all these employees behind us who just kind of, sandwiched in the room. I'm so happy that they're there. So I'm just kind of looking at them. But then all of a sudden I see it's like all these cameras and all that. And I mean, I wasn't all made up or anything. I just went just like I was, just to talk to the media and be transparent and to apologize to people who had been victimized by things that were alleged. That's where I wanted to start. And then to lay out our vision, our values, and our 100-day plan, and then to tell people to watch us and hold us accountable. And that's what we set out to do. And again, we weren't perfect, but I felt like I stepped in and did my job as a leader.
When did you feel like you got the culture at least back to neutral, or at least almost on the offense, where you were growing again? When did you feel like the culture shifted?
So we had to get past neutral. Right. I felt like, okay, so we had the 100-day plan. And so we would have this huddle. And so every now and then, even the coach and the general manager would come over and we would check things off as an organization. I'd get up, or whoever was leading it, they would rattle it off and say, okay, who's been working on this? Have we gotten this done? And so we'd have to get the buy-off. And they'd say, oh, yeah. And we'd say, okay, do you all feel like we got this one done? And the employees would clap. We check it off. We check it off. When we felt like we were in a good shape with the 100-day plan and we had checked off the last thing, and we were getting stuff painted on the walls and covered up at nighttime, so the employees didn't know about the physical transformation of our workplace. Okay, we were having new desks brought in, just all kind of stuff. Because a lot of it, people were working in silos. And we said, what do you guys want? They wanted a big open, 4pan, all that. We're like, okay. Honestly, I just thought we should have a whole new building and all that. Okay, I'm like, okay, but this is where we work. So we have this big meeting one day, and I said, okay. We checked off the last one. I said, okay, we are going to physically walk out into the parking lot. We're going to walk out of this workplace. And when we walk back in, we're going to walk into a new day. New day, new culture, new vision. It's a brand new day.
Symbol to make a difference.
Yes, it does. And so that we walked out, and so while we were outside, people were inside taking the stuff off the walls and all that. And so we walked back in. You come in, it's painted. You can see the values on the wall, all kind of stuff, right? Our workplace promise, every voice matters, everybody belongs. And then we had, on the back wall, it was just all white. And we had people put their hand in gray paint and put their fingerprint, their handprint up on the wall. And the wall said, all in. And so like, if you're all in, do it. And they said, Cynt, we want you to do it first. I said, okay. I hadn't planned on really getting my hands in the paint, right? I said, okay. And so I did it. And so everybody did it. And so that wall was up for a long time. Very recently, I think we had to paint over it, but it was up for a long time. And even when new people would come, we'd explain it to them and we would do that. And then we would do things in our business planning process where we make a quilt. We always did something a big team activity to keep us together.
Okay.
But that was the moment I felt like we had turned the corner.
So you've talked about some of the challenges when you came in, and a lot of those have to do, and we've dealt with it from organization a lot, really around the culture and how you change that. So there's the kind of the pre-Cynt piece where you came in with
That's
all
what the team says. Like
with all the challenges, which were very public, which became very public.
Very public.
There. You're talking about an obligation of you in a leadership position and other folks that are in there having a real obligation to kind of think about the fans, to communicate them, to kind of be a transparent in what you want to accomplish with the franchise. Fair?
Oh, absolutely. That's totally fair. They're part of the business. When I started the Dallas Mavericks Advisory Council, DMAC, it was about 30 members from the community, from business, from community organizations, nonprofits, academia, I mean, you name it. So we tried to have a cross-section of kind of our fan base and our stakeholders. And we met quarterly or more and got input, help advise us on the business. I mean, that feedback, that external feedback is key. And the fans are a huge part of what we do. I mean, first of all, obviously from a financial standpoint, but a brand standpoint, you walk around, you see people all over the place, in Mavs gear. I was in the Bahamas one year. I go every year, and I'm having breakfast, and this guy is in there with his son, and he has a Mavs gear. I'm like, this is crazy. And so, of course, one of my kids went over to him and ended up telling him who I was. So we took pictures and all that, and I still communicate with that fan. And so when they come to the game, I go and see the kid and all that. That's our business. I mean, we're about the fans. And when you have changes, you talk to the fans about it. You let them know what you're doing. You try to communicate with the season ticket holders and more. I mean, it's a huge part of our business. It is our business.
I love your story on vacation. I took my son this last year. He is a big Manchester United fan.
Oh, I love it.
So I took him over to see 2 games with Manchester United in Manchester. And I found people wearing Mavericks jerseys.
They're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
Literally everywhere.
The number was 2 digits that were the same. We'll keep moving on that. But anyway, but it was great to see a Mavericks jersey in that kind of environment.
Yes, because our fans are global. And that's what we stop and, every year we have our business planning process. We talk about the fact that, so we have almost 20,000 fans in our building at every game. Mm-hmm. I call it 41 parties. So 82 games, 41 parties with 20,000 guests, which is awesome. But most of our fans are not in the building. There are millions of people all over the world. And our job every day is to figure out how we serve them. What do we do for them? How can we hear from them? How do we get feedback? That is our business. It's a fan business. And the players love that. I mean, so our guys play for the fans.
So how did you instill that in the organization?
Well, we had a big focus on it. I mean, we have our starting 5, our priorities every year. And one was just purely around fan engagement. I mean, that was right behind the employee experience. I always had the employee experience first because I want people to feel great when they walk in our doors and when they leave our doors. And then the fan experience. How do we market to them? How do we treat them? Special goodies and things that we'll give throughout the game. What do we do for fans who can't watch our games? That's how we ended up launching Mavs TV, because there were so many people who could not watch our games because of just the change in the industry and what was happening with media rights. And so Mark and I would talk probably for about 2 or 3 years straight. We'd say, okay, should we go ahead and launch and do our own thing? And so we'd go through all that. And it was never the right time. And then finally, it was the right time. And we knew we would take a financial hit short term. I mean, you got to have long-term vision as a leader.
Investment.
Yeah.
It is. And so we knew at one point we'd get the return on investment. But what really drove me, what was just driving me, was all of these comments, because we do fan surveys. And of course, we watch social media. We have all kind of ways to hear from folks. And it was just becoming louder and louder and louder, the fans saying, I can't watch the games. And we said, we have to respond to this. And that's when we launched Mavs TV.
So how involved was Mark in all of these called fan experience type of conversations? It seems like growing up a Mavs fan, you loved Mark Cuban because he was like the best kind of player owner and fan owner that you could get. So talk me through Mark's involvement in this.
Well, he stressed that to me. Of course, everybody knows when I got there, I did not know the business of basketball. Okay, I was a basketball fan, obviously a proven leader, but I didn't know the business of basketball. And when Mark would talk to me, he would talk about the fans. And through our business planning processes, he'd say, keep the fans first, keep the fans first. He also said that about the community, that we're engaged in the community. He said, but I know your background, so you got that and you'll take it to another level. But always keep the fans first. Even when we were going through COVID, we try to figure out how do we get the fans involved. I mean, it was a tough time, but we did some things virtually. We just had to try new things to keep the fans engaged. So he was very much involved in it and made it a priority to tell me to do the same.
I'm going to come back to the organization because when you came in, and maybe you tell us a little bit about the organization. You came in as the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the Mavericks.
Mark offered me the job as the CEO. That's the name he gave it.
And you had some key people. As you said, you didn't have the basketball side of it from the background, but you had Donnie Nelson and Rick Carlisle.
Right, the general manager and the coach. We were a threesome.
And talk about how that threesome worked between all of you. And not just kind of in business decisions and not just basketball, but how decisions permeated throughout the franchise.
Well, it's interesting. There's a picture that's out there of Rick Carlisle giving me a hug at the very beginning. And basically what that picture is about, he was saying we're going to be one. And I was over, I was visiting on the basketball side. That's before we were all located, on the same property. But I was visiting with him one day and meeting everybody. He said, I want you to talk to the players. So when I would go to away games, he'd have me right in there. He said, Cynt, you got to come to breakfast and we want you to kind of do the huddle and break us up at the end. I'm just like, ooh, this is kind of scary. And it turned out just to be fun. So we really did try to operate as one. I mean, it was not unusual to see the coaches and the basketball ops staff in our location and us going to see them. Donnie, Scott Tomlin, who had he was over basketball communications, Sarah Melton before that. I mean, we're all in the same staff meeting and all that. So we were we really did operate as one. The NBA used to use us as a model. So we'd go to NBA meetings and they say, okay, tell us how this works because, back then, I don't know what it is right now, but back then it was kind of unusual for there not to be tension between the basketball side and the business side. But I actually give Mark Cuban credit for that. Mark paid a lot of attention, obviously for a lot of reasons because of why I got there, but he paid a lot of attention to the business side. He wasn't in there running our business day to day because he didn't need to do that, but he paid attention. He respected and included the baskalball side, the business side. So I think, culture starts at the top. The tone is set Absolutely. At the top. And so I believe, I always felt very respected and included and never felt like we were inferior. I stressed to my team, we were there for the players and the fans. So I got a big logo, Mavs head, put on the floor, painted on our side because we're part of the team too. And I just wanted everybody, the basketball side, to feel welcome, everybody. So we worked really hard to make that happen.
And it seems to me, Cynt, and having led a lot of large organizations, that you're touching on something that's not just Mavericks or basketball, but you're touching on something that's much wider. And that is good organizations include people and engage for the benefit of making better decisions.
Absolutely.
Now,
inclusion is key.
As you know, and we won't go there, but I wrote largely a critical analysis of the trade of Luka earlier this year.
I read that. And it was sent to me by several people.
I can imagine. I can imagine it was. And what I touched on was the failure of leadership, but also the breakdown of the organization. Because what you're talking about in the scenario that you had, and again, I've talked to a lot of people within the Mavericks organization. That trade, the coach didn't know about it. There was largely a very siloed organization. And we'll leave that there for now. But what you're talking about when you were there was the importance of having this engagement of all the different parts of the organization, really with the goal of making better decisions and building the franchise. So it becomes
Absolutely.
less of a personal agenda and more of an organizational. Is that a fair way to put it?
That's a fair way to put it. It's all about team. It's all about team. So, for example, when things would happen, and sometimes you're not privy to a trade or you're just not privy to what's going on for a lot of reasons. I mean, you got people involved that has to be quiet, whatever. Okay, I'm not judging that. The reason I would like to know things as soon as possible, so as soon as it's possible, because my folks are the ones who are going to get all the calls from the fans. Yeah. It's about the fans. Yeah. And it's about knowing how to respond to it, having the talking points. I mean, there's some things you can't talk about. So I would either say, no, just send that to me. Or here's the response. It's about being ready and being responsive to the fans, realizing there are some things you can't talk about. There's some things you won't know about, but as early as possible, equip me so that we can equip our folks. Because honestly, we're all in this together and we want it to be smooth. We want the fans to be okay. I mean, their voices matter too. You don't always get a say in things, but it's about a well-functioning organization.
But there's trades, and then there's trades that change franchise. And I would argue
Correct.
that in the history of sports, at least in the last century or so, there's probably only about 5 trades that would fall into that category. Babe Ruth, clearly, sort of things like that. And so that's a little bit different. It seems to me when you deal with that, talking about the sort of importance of understanding the fan base and understanding the fans. And I think of one comment that was made, a press conference after you had left as president, that was made by a senior individual who basically said, I just didn't understand the fan base, which to me was a comment, and again, take it out of that context, but for a leader of any organization. I think of the people that reported to me in large organizations. For them to have made a comment like that I didn't understand my client base, I didn't understand my customer base, it just leaves me mouth open, struck of how you can have organizations, any type of organizations, that don't understand that. Again, AT&T is one that prides itself on understanding the customer, being engaging, and that sort of thing.
And I still say I worked there for 36 years.
But that was your background.
Yes.
How do you think about that, again, from a leadership standpoint? We'll take the trade away as a particular piece, but think of it, how do you think about that as an organization and the importance of understanding customer bases and that sort of thing?
Well, it's top of mind, and it's something you always think about when a decision is made. You know your fans, so you try to anticipate. There's some things you can't anticipate, okay? But you do your best to anticipate what's going to be the response so we can either get ahead of it or figure out how to bring those folks in. And I actually, I mean, obviously I wasn't involved in it. Obviously I didn't know it was happening. When my son sent me a text message, I didn't believe him. Actually, I didn't believe him. I said, no, this is somebody playing an April Fool's joke on February 1st. So I actually didn't believe it. But when it all kind of came out, one piece of advice I did, because I am a consultant to the Mavs. I love the organization. Okay. And so and the new owners kept me on as a consultant. So I appreciate that. One thing I did tell them is we have to stop and listen to the fans. I made a recommendation, just get it. I mean, it's maybe not a good recommendation, but I was just trying to think through what can we do? I mean, I still consider myself to be a part of it. Can we get, the fans in the arena and just, bring some folks in there to just talk to them? And my point was, we have to hear these people. I mean, this is such a critical part of who we are. And I think we ended up doing some things.
And I guess the thing that's coming out of this conversation is it's more than words. It is building a culture and thinking about the structure. For instance, the way you described it with Donnie and with Rick and with you, it was an organization that was a single organization as opposed to, and I've seen it a number of times, and it is not good for organizations to be very siloed, where somebody kind of pulls back and takes their area, holds it within, and doesn't engage the rest of the organizations. I mean, you see it today in the organizations you're involved in. I've seen it all my life. That siloing, which my sense is, and again, from comments that I've received from the Mavs organization, it's become a very siloed organization. Again, pull the Mavs out. That doesn't work much in terms of organizations going forward, being customer-centric, being understanding of the market, kind of pulling all pieces together.
Teamwork is key. And I'm like that even on my team. I started out something like 14, and then we got down to 8 direct reports. And one of the things that I just stressed all the time, and we tried to make it happen, was you have to work together. It's all about being together. And that's actually one of my personal hot buttons. If I'm operating in an environment and I have colleagues and I feel like I am being excluded, because I'm about inclusion, I don't need to be included just because I want to know stuff or I'm nosy or I got to be involved in making the decision. I need to be included because there's a role for me to play and there's a role for the 200 people on my team to play. So it's all about inclusion. And then you make better decisions when you have, people around the table.
Inclusion too, the decisions that you make then, Cynt, are not personal decisions.
No,
in
not at all.
the sense of looking at an individual and say, okay, that doesn't fit my view of the world. It really becomes, how can I utilize that person's individual skills, expertise, et cetera,
Exactly.
and build them into the organization, as opposed to a very exclusionary of that person. I don't like the way they operate. I don't like, the people that they surround themselves, et cetera.
It's not personal.
It is. And I think that's one thing that always concerned me about the decision, was there was a personal component to it as opposed to what was right for the organization. Kyle, I interrupted you.
No, you're good. So I think from a fan perspective, I'll ask a question as a fan. You've seen 2 different ownership groups. Obviously, you've talked about how some of the oneness may have changed. Is there anything else that sticks out to you and that you hope for from a growth perspective for the organization as you call it, shut this door on your part of career?
Well, here's what I said. And I said this in the press conference when I passed the baton. And I passed the baton to Rick Welts, who is absolutely wonderful. And so I've been feeling a little bad for him because, he ended up coming out of retirement with all of his background. He's a Hall of Famer and kind of ended up in this situation. But he's great. And so a reporter asked me, he said, what is one piece of advice you will give Rick? And I didn't have to think long about it. And if you go back and you watch the press conference, you'll see. And I said to make sure everybody is respected and included. Because that was always, I think, important to me, and part of our success is that the business side was always respected and included always respected and included where they needed to be. And there was we were a part of it, and we didn't have to fight for things. And so that was, I think, very special to me when I first got there. Started to change a bit. And that's one thing I told Patrick, our new owner, who I'm excited that our new owners are focused on investing in Dallas. I mean, you probably know that we are looking at an arena in Dallas, not anywhere else. So we've been
hopefully in the downtown area.
Yes, and that's part of my role behind the scenes is to kind of work on that. And so we're working hard to make sure we're in Dallas because that's important to us. It's important to our fan base. I think we owe it to our fans. Our fans have entrusted a lot to us over the past 40 years. And so I'm right in there with them, trying to make that happen. They are invested. I mean, they chose Dallas. They could have chosen somewhere else. So they made the decision to buy this team and to be in Dallas. So I'm giving them a lot of advice. And so I'm giving them advice about make sure that the business side, the basketball side, the coach.
Harmony.
That there's harmony there. Just make sure there's harmony there. I can't stress it enough because it is taxing on an organization when that is not the case.
But how does, again, clearly a very qualified, experienced, scars on their back person like Rick comes in, how does he feel when all of a sudden you have a situation like we've talked about on the trade, that happens, excluded, and kind of the pieces that you're working with all of a sudden change 30 days in? I mean,
it's tough. It's tough. If anybody can get through it and get an organization through it, he can, and he will. In fact, we're having dinner tomorrow night. I'm just trying to stay close, and he's reaching out, and the owners reach out, and so everybody's trying to get it right. We know it's a tough situation, but we're moving forward. We got the number 1 draft pick, and so which is great. We still got to engage our fans, and we are. Right. We still. I mean, there's a big focus on how do we engage the fans. We didn't like 100%.
Let me be controversial for a second.
Okay, be controversial. I like controversy. I'm not trying to make any headlines. I came in on headlines.
I think we're all excited to see the potential that Cooper Flagg has.
100%.
Kind of a special talent.
Yeah, another special talent.
But
yes, another one.
But I just wonder. So under the hypothetical, we'll never know.
The hypothetical.
Kyrie goes down. So we don't have the makeup that we had that got to the finals the year before.
Yep.
But which I love Kyrie Irving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great player.
But let's play the what if game for a second. So he goes down. Clearly, we don't have the chance to make the run that we did the year before. Mm-hmm. We probably don't go any further than this team did. What would it be like? And you're smiling, so I won't even ask you. But think about it. If we wouldn't have gone any further, we would have had the same probabilities. Think about what a franchise would be
Cooper Flagg
with Luka passing to Cooper. Yeah. Just for a second. Again, I won't put a question mark next to that. But think of that, and I put it in the context of not only the value on the basketball court number of wins,
right,
but think of what the franchise would be with having a Luka and a Cooper, because Luka, one of the benefits that he brought had nothing to do with 35 points a night and that sort of thing. But when you saw the NBA logos out there for upcoming games and that, you saw a couple of people, but they were always there. You saw LeBron and you saw Luka. And then you usually saw one or two others.
Yes.
But all of a sudden, that was an individual that wasn't just a basketball player, but it was iconic. And again, not only, as you said, Cynt, on the basketball court, but in Europe.
Global.
Yeah, he's an athlete. Global athlete.
And that's a kind of asset that you've got to be careful of, which I think is the challenge.
That's what you want. And especially you bring young people along, they love him. My sister, who is older than I am, okay, so she'll be 70 in September, she would come to the games to watch Luka. She says, I just want to see him smile. And if he had a game where he wasn't smiling, she said, tell him I need him to smile and enjoy the game. That's why I come to watch him. So it's just, he had fans of all ages, and he still does.
There was, I was at Central Market the other day, and there was a individual, low level, within the Mavericks organization. And I've got my ducks and I've got a bunch of broccoli. And I walked by and I had seen him, and then he came back up and he said, by the way, Mayor Leopard, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate that article you wrote was. And it was very interesting. So
well,
another
I think you said things that some people were thinking and wouldn't say or
didn't say out loud.
Say, and they didn't want to say it out loud.
And to be frank, I was in a position where I could.
Exactly, because you don't want to offend anybody. And,
I may never get another ticket to the Mavericks game, but nevertheless.
You will get a ticket to the Mavericks game. You can come and sit right by me, because one thing we stress, and I hope we still stress it, is a speak-up culture. That was huge for us. Say what's on your mind. Yeah. Whether you're a fan, whether you're an employee, say what is on your mind, and we have to accept that.
And we want to see the franchise do well. I think that's what hurts so much is the way the decision was made. I thought it was a failed leadership. It was done for all the wrong reasons, and it hurt not only the franchise, but it hurt our community.
I will say one of the things, and I said earlier that we've worked so hard on even before, my time, is creating that emotional connection with the fans. And one of the things that I continue to say after the trade is what we are experiencing. I mean, even when we saw the coffins out there and all that, I said we are experiencing the result of emotional connections. And people are emotionally invested in our team, and we want that. And so now we have to experience their emotions.
And for somebody in leadership to not understand that, to actually publicly say, I didn't really understand it. Yeah. And to be in a position of trying to make what I'll call excuses. I won't put you on the spot, but excuses of, we want to win championships. We were in the finals. So, I mean, this was not a situation where we all of a sudden.
We weren't not making the playoffs.
We were at the bottom.
I was in Boston. It was
the bottom level.
Yeah.
So, but one thing you raised, and I throw the question out. I've known Mark for a long time. as I think a lot of folks that are listening. I don't know of an owner, and maybe there has been, but I don't know of an owner that showed as much passion, as much interest, as much dedication in the franchise. It was fun to go out and see him, to be truthful with you, which I all did too. Yell at the referees and that sort of thing.
Of course. He loves it.
He loves it. I had to tell him one time, okay, we're sharing respect in the workplace. That's their workplace.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay. Like he's into it. He is all
So
about
why did he sell the franchise? Why, given that it seemed like it was so much of his persona and he enjoyed it so much, why sell the franchise? Clearly wasn't a question of money.
Okay, so I know what he said publicly, which matches what he told me when he actually found me that day to tell me that this was happening, and I just couldn't believe it. I said, "You're leaving me," because it was such a great experience being with him, and he really has this vision for Dallas being a destination point for vacations and all that. And I think he really thought, okay, here's an opportunity to get a different owner that can really kind of help bring that to fruition. And he had his whole thought process. And then I love the fact that he's also focused on cost plus drugs and what we can do around prescriptions and being, drugs being more affordable. But he didn't say that was the reason. That's Cynt talking, and I'm glad that he's pursuing.
So it may be just other priorities he's got in his life.
And then the ages of his kids,
kids older,
and being there, wanting to be there more for them. So I can respect all of that. Only he knows why he did it. But I will say, I was when he told me that day, I was just like, this is not happening. And then he asked me, to stay and help with the transition and all that. And so I did. It's all good.
And I'm selfish. I want to see the franchise do well.
Yeah.
I love.
And we will. I am convinced.
I love seeing Dallas in that context that Luca brought us.
I'm convinced we'll do well.
There's another conversation that we won't get into, which is the gambling piece of it. Which is a real concern to me, having been in public office and seen a lot of the sides of gambling that people don't appreciate.
Right, but I think what the focus is right now is creating, and this is the way Patrick describes it, he loves the urban core. And so creating this entertainment district and being a part of doing something fabulous in Dallas. We already know Dallas is a wonderful place. We know that. I've lived here, 12 years. We love Dallas. And you're a part of building Dallas.
And I hope that's what it becomes.
And I think that's what it's going to become. But I think what we have to do—
entertainment not tied to gambling.
Entertainment district.
I hope that's what it becomes.
Look at what's happening with the convention center and what our great city manager is doing.
Right.
We want to be a part of that. We want to still be a part of the AAC and have entertainment there. We want to build a new arena and be a part of what's happening there at that convention center. So that is the vision that has nothing to do with gambling. That is the vision that we're working on right now. But here's what I think we all have to do. I think we all have to say, this is our home. This is Dallas. And we do have to speak up. We do have to speak up. We do have to offer our ideas. I pulled together a lunch with Patrick and Rick and 7 of our DMAC members just to talk about Dallas and so they can express themselves. And I told them, I said, I need you to just hear these people and just let them talk. And they both were receptive, wanted to do that, wanted to engage. And so I think the more we get Patrick involved and engaged in Dallas, I had him out at Fort Oak Cliff. He fell in love with the place. I think it's on all of us to do that, to take these owners who are not from here and engage them
in the community
in Dallas, engage them in the community.
And I hope that's what it is, because Mark clearly understood Dallas was from Dallas. I just think in sports in general, it's a tougher challenge when you don't live in the community, you're not part of the community, you don't understand the culture and what drives the community.
That's right.
Because Dallas is a very special place, as I say in a number of cases. Dallas is, I would argue, the largest city in the world that doesn't have a reason for existence, that there's no topographical, geographic reason. It was really created, and the growth has come and the success from people, not from some element of ports, harbors, et cetera. That sort of thing.
That's right.
The only port harbor we actually made, which is DFW.
It's a special place. It really is a special place. And I think that's what the owners are really starting to understand this is truly, I mean, obviously they did, some homework, obviously, before they bought it. But this is a very special place, and they know what a jewel it is. And I'm in there, and others are in there, really trying to make this very successful.
I hope you're right.
We love our team. I mean, we love our team, and I'm critical. I mean, I will. They've heard some things. They've heard some things because we love it here.
So on that, so we started this part of the conversation at least by talking kind of some of the pre-Cynt and the challenges that you had coming into it. We've talked about how you build culture. Any comments that you want to make of how you see kind of the culture of the organization post-Cynt?
Well, I'm not there. So just like you, I mean, I hear from people. People are calling me all the time. I mean, frankly, Rick and Patrick are calling me. And what I continue to say is we have a set of values that I know are still in place. And so the policies and all that, let's just make sure we continue to build on those values that have proven to be successful. Again, we're not perfect. We had stuff happening too. Okay, no organization is perfect.
Perfect was 2,000 years ago.
That's exactly right. But I think there's a foundation there, and just build on that and keep the people first. Reward the people who are working hard. Make sure the organization is operating as one, and not allow the business people to start to feel like they're not a part of the team and they're inferior, because people know. I mean, you have to have your business side along with the players. Yep. And there's a great relationship with the players. They love the folks on the business side and the basketball side. So do kind of like the players do. Come out and get on that court as one team. This is where you truly have to model what the players are doing every day. It's one team.
I hope you're right. Those values, I think, were fractured with the incidents that we saw. And I think that's too bad. But I think both Kyle and I share your optimism going forward.
Yes.
That we've got a franchise that at least will come back and be great.
Yeah, we had some.
100%.
Yeah.
Two things close from just a younger fan perspective. One, hearing the Patricks going into the community is, I think, a huge win. Obviously, for us younger folks, everything's on social media, everything's videos, everything's snippets, etc.
And he wants to do it, so help us. I mean, because, help us know where he needs to go.
Honestly, that's a great request. I think the other thing is a stadium in an urban core is huge for the city of Dallas.
Huge.
Dallas has been so marred by stadiums going elsewhere, Arlington obviously being a prime destination. Keeping the Mavericks in Dallas, I think, a testament, hopefully, to y'all's work on making that happen.
Our fan base is huge. And our fan base it's just different, I think, from any other fan base.
She
it's
can't
amazing.
say it, but there's some great options in downtown Dallas.
There are. We'd love them to be there.
Great.
We love it.
I can't say it, but I agree with you.
Cynt, has been terrific. You once said, as I guess trying to sum up your legacy, I'm not sure that's the right word. You once said, what you wanted to be known is, I loved, I served, I lifted, I tried to do what's right, and I showed up.
I love that. I said that, huh?
You said that.
Yes.
Elaborate.
Yes. I tell my kids all the time that when I'm gone, I just want a sign that says she left it better than she found it. And so when I show up, because you have to show up, I always say you must be present to win. You have to show up. Sometimes, especially as a leader, you might not want to show up. The headlines might be out there, but you have to show up. And so I want to show up for people. I want to show up for people in the good times and the great times, the bad times and the ugly times, like all times. So I want to show up for my people. I want to show up for the community. I want to show up for my family. I want to show up for the employees. And I want to love these people. And I want to love them and be there to do what I believe the Lord has called me to do. And that's to lead and to serve, to make things better, to be that voice that provides the optimistic view, not naive, tackle the hard stuff, but tackle it from a view of the glass is half full. And we got this, and let's go and get it. And I want to be there and help these people live better lives. That's all I want to do. I am not trying to have a headline. Sometimes people say, well, you're a celebrity now. I say, I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a celebrity. And I don't know why that's like something that I don't want to be. I just want to be used. I want to have impact and to make lives better. And wherever the Lord says, show up, I want to show up and do what I'm supposed to do.
I just wonder what your career would have been like if you had had a little bit more passion, a little bit more energy, and been a little bit more extroverted.
I know, huh?
I wonder.
Who knows?
Hey, Cynt, it's been terrific. You are a great person. As I said at the outset, it's fun to talk to you about your achievements, but I think people get a lot more of learning about the journey, not just the points along the way, but the journey. You've dealt with a lot of challenges, but I'll tell you, seeing your optimism and your view of faith and hope makes a difference for everyone. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for joining us.
I'm so blessed to be here with the two of you and blessed to be in Dallas.